Hello and welcome to the Cole.dev podcast. I'm Cole Young, and in today's first episode, I wanted to start with an introduction to who I am, how I got into programming, and then after this, I want to talk about the current projects that I'm working on and the things that I'm doing to build and expand upon the skills and talents that I have. And hopefully in the process, push beyond those talents, because, what is improvement or being productive without pushing the boundaries and being the absolute best version of yourself? That's just my opinion. So starting with my introduction. So I am a programmer, musician, and designer. And depending on which social media platform you find me on, you may find that those titles are kind of switched around. So, if I had to say what I am first, and always will be, out of all of those titles that I just mentioned, it would be musician. So I have been playing guitar for about 24 years now, and I love to shred. As a matter of fact, there is nothing more satisfying to me, second to programming, than to shred on guitar. And I explain it to people like this. For those on the outside looking in, trying to figure out, what is this whole metal thing all about? There's a bunch of screaming, there's a bunch of noise, but let me tell you, let me break it down for you as a guitar player. It's like solving a puzzle piece. It's like solving a puzzle in real time, and it's like super complex. But each puzzle piece that you lay down, it fits so perfect. It fits perfect. So you get to the 1 minute mark, there's that puzzle piece, and there's no trying to, smush it in there or try to make it fit when it doesn't. No, you're executing with extreme precision. Okay? And it is a glorious feeling. So I love metal, and don't get me wrong, I love all types of music. It's just what I'm best at is metal. It is the genre that I have spent the most time on. But I appreciate all types of music. So first and always is going to be music for me. The immediate second to that, of course, is going to be programming. And then the third is design. And going to design for just a little bit, for just a moment, I actually started getting into it seriously back in probably at the beginning of COVID, during the beginning of 2020. I had seen people utilizing tools like Adobe XD and seeing people create these design prototypes of websites before they would code them out. And it just made sense to me. Because up until that point, I'll be real with you, if I had an idea to build a website, I would just code it out. There was no wireframes, there was nothing. There was no skeleton or even rough draft drawing. Well, that's not true. I did do a few wireframes previously, but the majority of the time when I would build web projects, it would always just basically be, okay, well, this is what I need here, this is what I need here, and then code it out. But once I got into 2020 and started using Adobe XD, and then of course shortly after that Figma. That changed the game for me, and seeing my ideas and my prototypes like kind of like in the flesh before I actually fully hash them out in code, which was glorious. And yeah, I have such an affinity and just abundant love for design, things like Figma, and just things of that sort. It's just, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing. Of course, Figma is super user friendly. I could go on and on. I love design. But yeah, so programming. So this is the biggest one. Because after all, this is the Cole.dev podcast. And when it comes to programming, I actually have had a pretty long history with it. But I will say this, I did not get serious about it until April of 2017. And the reason why that time frame is so specific is because that was the month in the year that I decided, you know what? Let's cut the crap and let's learn a programming language. And of course, my programming language of choice was Python. And before I get to that, because to me that's the best detail of this, to where you can see where I'll eventually talk about the light bulb moment when I finally realized what you could do with programming. So going back to somewhere around 2007 and 2008, I was familiar, and when I say familiar, I was familiar with programming to a degree, but never really did anything with it. I was aware of it. And if I remember correctly, I actually wanted to learn Python as early as 2008. But of course, never really did anything with it. And then fast forward to 2010, I start taking a more serious approach towards both Python and C++. So I start watching the New Boston tutorials, and if you know who that is, you are an absolute OG. All right, like we're talking about pretty much the humble beginnings of YouTube, and I still love his tutorials. But yeah, I watched a few for a little bit, but then lost interest in it. And meanwhile, understand that within these times, and especially within these gaps of times that I'm telling you about here, my priority was always with music. I mean, going as far back as my high school days, that's all I ever cared about. So going into these years or these time frames, whenever I would lose interest in something, I would always go back to music and put the most attention into that because, like I said, I'm a musician. But yeah, 2010, did a little bit of C++ and Python, but nothing serious. Didn't really go anywhere with it. 2012, did kind of the same thing, touched on C++, a little bit of Python, and then that was it. And that was it for a while. But then, and I'm probably missing some details, 2012 to 2016 or 2017, but that's okay. This is, pretty much a summary. I'm getting all the key details here. So fast forward to April of 2017, obviously don't remember the exact moment, but I do remember in that month, April of 2017, and that year, I was like, I'm going to learn how to program in Python. And that was the same time that I came across Al Sweigert's book, Automate the Boring Stuff with Python, which is a very popular one, and for a very, very good reason. It is a fantastic book. And for anyone that's listening to this, if you're at the start of your programming journey and you're thinking of, or if you're thinking about starting a programming journey, I definitely recommend starting with that, because that book and even the course on Udemy that he had, or that he has, that changed the game for me. And this is what I was referring to a few moments ago, talking about that light bulb moment, my eureka moment. Like, oh man, I can do this. That's so awesome. So yeah, started going through the course on Udemy, and I mean, I was following everything down to every last detail. And not only that, and here's the key part of this, I made sure that with every single detail that I went through, that I did not proceed any further until I understood what I was reading or what I was hearing in terms of the code. And that, I've taken that approach still. I still take that approach to this day to program. Now, sometimes in some areas, because I've been programming for about 8 years now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm just like so extreme all the time, like, just falling asleep with an iPad reading documentation for programming languages or libraries or anything like that. But having done this for about 8 years, sometimes you can scan through the data quick enough and be like, okay, I know where this is going, and kind of go through it without reading everything. But during this time, in April of 2017, I mean, I was going through everything, every last line, every detail, to make sure that I understood it before I move forward. And that taught me a lot. And not only that, so really the eureka moment and the light bulb moment for me with programming was figuring out that you could automate things. And that sent me down a deep rabbit hole with, at the very beginning it was graphical user interfaces, and then eventually, web applications and Django and Flask. And it's funny mentioning Django, because when I first started, and this will show you my level of knowledge at the time versus now, where I understand everything more. When I first started learning Python, I knew that I wanted to utilize the Django framework, and I wanted to get into it like quick, and I mean like quick. But I didn't really understand why. Until 2018, when I actually used it for the first time. So there was a course, it was a Django 2 course. That was really it was really a fun course. You got to build your own like product hunt clone, and just kind of learn the ins and outs of Django. And I believe that was the same course on Udemy that I took, that I learned Git. And just a lot of valuable information that I still carry with me to this day. And yeah, I love it. I love all things tech. I love programming. and there's just so many cool things and just not enough time. I'm sure people understand that. I wish I could dive into everything, but sometimes you just gotta, realize, especially now with the abundance of tools that we have, it's like, okay, well, this works and this works. Let's get some work done. All right, let's, put this over here to bed, and let's really start working on something and building something incredible. So yeah, that is my programming history in a nutshell. So let's talk about some of the current projects that I'm working on. So I've got quite a few, and I've talked about a few on my LinkedIn. One of the most prominent ones is my Cornell Quick Notes, which is a Flask application catered to students who are looking for an efficient way to take notes and, kind of like absorb the notes in a way that it's not just like writing everything down and expecting to memorize it. So the idea behind Cornell Quick Notes is based off of the Cornell note-taking method, which is a simple note-taking method where you have, let's say, like a block of paper, and you have 3 sections of this paper or this note-taking system. On the left-hand side, you've got a main points, or what they refer to as a Q column. So you can write questions, acronyms, some of the most prominent words that maybe come up in a lecture or a video tutorial, whatever it may be. And then to the right of the Q column, or the main points section, is a notes column. And it is exactly as it sounds. You put all of your notes. Now, here's the catch with this. And I haven't really done this with Cornell Quick Notes because, in the digital world, it tends to get annoying when you start limiting people on what they can do. And I'll explain what I mean by this in just a second. So when you're taking notes in the Cornell note-taking method, you're limited by the confines of those sections of that paper, right? Your main points, your Q column, notes, and then below notes is the summary section. So when you run out of space, you run out of space. And you could be a goober and, right outside of the lines, but the idea behind this note-taking method is to, put it in your own words, summarize it the best way that you can, so that way you're only concerned with the most important parts of it, rather than writing everything down verbatim and expecting yourself to remember that, which is not productive, not beneficial. So then you got that summary column at the bottom of the notes section, and that's exactly what it sounds like as well. You summarize everything in a few sentences, and that's pretty much it. And the app is coming together pretty good. There's a few quirks here and there, but what app does not have its quirks? A few quirks here and there that I need to fix, and then kind of maintain the app from there. But overall, it's doing good. I want to turn it into a desktop application at some point. Haven't figured out what exactly I want to do with that. Now, here recently, I've been messing with the Beware suite of Python tools like Briefcase, and Briefcase allows you to create standalone native applications in Python. Now, I'm familiar with things like PyInstaller and AutoPy to exe. I think that's how it's named, and that's basically a graphical user interface version of PyInstaller. and really great tools. Might have it as a, Docker container. Haven't really decided yet, but definitely desktop application for sure. Just haven't figured out what route I want to take for that. So yeah, that's still being maintained. Another one that I finished up that's currently being maintained and will definitely have more features is Ask Me, which is a art to ASCII generator. And it is built on the wings of Ask Me Magic, which is a Python library that does exactly what my application does, but makes it just a little bit easier in a series of commands that are, easy to run. So that one was pretty cool. Another one that I'm working on, and this one is a new addition to a programming language that I have had no prior history with, and that is Rust. Now, Rust has been slowly climbing up the ranks of popular programming languages, and for a very good reason. But that's the thing is I'm not programming in Rust or building applications in Rust because it's popular. It just so happens that that's what's happening right now. I got into Rust because pretty much all the tools that I'm using now, like for example Helix and Alacrity, are running on Rust. And the first thing, I love Rust so much. I think it's a beautiful language. The first thing that I noticed when I started using Helix, which is a Rust-based text editor, basically like NeoVim or Vim, first thing I noticed with it is how fast it was. I was like, man, this like smokes VS Code or any of these code editors. And please understand when I say this, I'm well aware that there's more going on under the hood with VS Code and things like PyCharm. I love all of those code editors and still use them, especially for really big projects. But when it comes to getting down to the nitty gritty and like really diving into programming and having that love for programming like I did when I first started, Helix and using a Rust-based terminal like Alacrity, it's chef's kiss. The performance is just absolutely astounding, and definitely the difference between night and day when you put that side by side to all of these other IDEs. So yeah, got a little ahead of myself. I'm being a little biased, but I love Rust. Love Helix and Alacrity, but that prompted me, once I started seeing the performance of Rust and finally came to my senses in terms of performance as a programmer. Now I know other people might get to that early on in their programming journey where they're like, okay, well I need this to be optimized enough to have this run efficiently and within this kind of time frame. I didn't get to that until I started using Rust-based products. So yeah, that prompted me to want to build a password, not a password generator, but a password vault or password manager in Rust. So I'm currently working on something called RustGuard that is exactly that. And because I'm brand new to Rust, I see the growing pains in the future. It's a premonition of things to come, but I'm totally cool with it because I really enjoy it. And that project's coming along, but right now I'm still in the very, very early stages of trying to figure out what works, what libraries I want to use, and all that good stuff. So yeah, so what? That's 3 projects that I've got so far. And the last one that I want to mention on here is not really like a full-on robust project, but it's an automation type script that I want to do. So in the past 2 years, or the past year actually, I've gotten into home labs. And I never thought I would say that. I never thought that I would actually build my own home lab, but, here we are. So I currently run Proxmox for my home lab. And one of the things that I've wanted to do for a while now is, have like a dedicated server or like Linux distribution like Debian or something run Python scripts simultaneously to post social media content on my behalf. Now, I am well aware of tools like N8N, which is basically a free and open source alternative to things like Zapier. And I like N8N, but the one thing that I do not like about it, and probably the same thing that I would not like about Zapier, even though I don't have much exposure with it, is the fact that you have to obtain all of these API keys. And let's face it, in the world that we live in, nothing is for free. And you might get a few requests in before you start racking up a charge on, on your debit card, right? And I'm not about that. I like free and open source down to every last detail. I like things to be free. And I decided that I'm going to build a script that posts content on social media platforms of my choice, like Facebook, LinkedIn, and things like that. So I'll be writing the script using Playwright, which is a kind of like a testing suite of tools, or either that or Selenium. Right now I'm kind of banking on Playwright just because it's easy to, for example, in Playwright, when you install it on your computer, you can run a command, I believe it's Playwright CodeGen, and it actually records all of the things that you do within the browser and creates the code for you, so you're not having to go through it. Now, once I do that, there's some stuff that I need to account for, like the storing of data of posts that I've already made. So for example, if it runs the script or runs through the script, and it's going to check which posts have been made. And I've experimented with this in Excel. I know I could probably do this using a SQL database, but shortest distance between 2 points, I'd like to use an Excel spreadsheet that has these posts, all of the relevant hashtags, all that other good stuff, and it cycles through them but stores the information. And maybe I might need a SQL database. I don't know yet. I haven't gone fully into that project yet. But the idea behind it is, it checks for what's been posted and what's not been posted, and it does it like daily or throughout the week, Monday through Friday. It checks for what posts have been sent, what has been sent, what hasn't been sent, and posts based off of that information. So it sounds like a big project. It really isn't. Comparing this to trying to set up an API key in N8N and all that. Don't get me wrong, N8N is not bad, but really at the end of the day, and I've actually, be real with you, I've talked to AI about this before. It's probably going to be more resource efficient if I do it with the Python scripts rather than utilizing the UI of N8N and running all of these scripts simultaneously within that platform. So make it just a little bit easier on me. But I'll be interested to see what I come up with on that. Now here's the thing. I got a few other projects listed here on this piece of paper in front of me, but I'm going to save that for a later time because some of these other projects, they need work, but there's one in particular that I don't want to spill the beans on because it's a pretty big project, and I'm really excited about it because I think it has a lot of potential, and it may not just be a simple project that I push to GitHub. It may actually be something that I can work with and I don't know, monetize. But we'll see. That's really all I've got at the moment. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Like I said, this is going to be the platform or kind of the formula of this where I talk about the main topic and then talk about current projects that I'm working on. Oh yeah, so skills that I'm building right now is I am, of course, learning Rust, and today I actually started messing around with some Bash scripting. Now, I've been familiar with Bash for a while now, ever since I started messing around with Linux back in 2020. Or 2021, one of the two. But today what I did is I was creating all sorts of shortcuts in terms of CDing into projects. Like, for example, I've got this RustGuard project, and don't get me wrong, I have no problem, doing CD documents /dev/RustGuard just to get into the project folder. But I was like, you know what? I want to create a Bash script that not only gets this, puts me in this directory, but it opens up, it starts running tmux. So I did that, and bam, there you go. And I just basically named the function RustGuard and saved it to the kind of the global bash file on my Linux machine, and then run the function, and there you have it. You've got you're right into the directory that you need to be in, and you got tmux up and running, so you can start pulling up all of the panes that you need. So yeah, that's currently what I'm doing right now to build upon my skills. Other than, of course, the obvious here, building these projects. Eventually, at some point, I need to and want to get into fast API development. And actually, I think I have a project about that. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted here. There is a flashcard study app that I may be building with Fast API. Haven't decided yet. But yeah, just a little bit at a time, not trying to burn myself out. And of course, having fun and trying to retain and absorb as much as I can and be equipped to use it again in the future. But anyway, folks, that's all I have for this first episode. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to follow me on whatever streaming platform that you're listening to this podcast on. Of course, alternatively, this will also be on YouTube. So feel free to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you again in